Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DNVR Rapids podcast. It's a loser's lounge again. I'm your host, Mitchell Carroll, aka Merchel, coming to you live from scenic Golden, Colorado. And I have a very special guest to break it down with me. The fella's taking the weekend off from the C38 podcast, from the tailgate, from the internet. It's our guy. It's Jared Geisler. Welcome back, dude.
Thanks, Mitch. Glad to be here, man.
We well, I wish it was on better terms, perhaps, but the Rapids lose 2-0 in Orlando. They not only lost by 2 goals, they lost by 2 men, 2 red cards. Galvan and Abubakar both sent off. This one was a classic brutal game. Just your quick top of the brain gut reaction to this one. Going into a break, 11 days off. Not the best way to go into that.
It's tough. We take bad situations, we make them worse for ourselves. And that's been, it's just happened so often. We are just coming back from injury, and we have Bombito on a red card suspension. Now we've got a couple of other guys on red card suspension. We just keep shooting ourselves in the foot one way or another. But I have to give the team credit because they find new and unique ways to do that week in and week out. I really you couldn't have picked, I think if you just said 2 red cards at the beginning of the game, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, but you would also got pretty long odds.
Yeah, I mean, you could have cashed in real good on 2 red card bets there on over at DraftKings. Just silly fouls too, undisciplined. I mean, it felt like Galvan's cleat could have broken a forearm. I mean, it wasn't like he hit him in the thighs or hit, and I mean, this was a flying cleat, no doubt red card, straight red. It's his 2nd red of the season.
He is the league leader in that category now.
Oh wow. Look at that.
We've got that going for us.
Not the offense certainly is not. That's 2 scoreless games in a row, just 14 goals in 18 matches. The highlight for sure, I mean, is going to be Marko Ilic to me. He had some great saves and in some last minute desperation dives and kicks and swats and about every way you can save a goal he did. And unfortunately, there was just not enough in front of him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he had plenty of work tonight, right? And we do need to see what we have in Ilic, and he has started to get more starts on the trot now, and Yarbrough is not getting any younger. So I think we did need to see what we had in Ilic. I think that looks like a pretty decent player, but he will be an investment if we want to keep him here beyond June. If we do not, then we would need to look for a second keeper, because I think even though Baudry has shown really good signs for Rapids too, 17, is he 18 yet? You're talking about a prospect who's still, probably we had Abe Rodriguez on the bench at times, and he was exposed when he wasn't quite ready. Baudry even younger. So I think if we do send Ilic off, then we have to replace him. And that will be iffy. Yarbrough perfectly fine this whole season, possibly been one of our best players. Even though the results don't bear it out. There's been games where we should have gotten beat probably by a couple more goals. Yarbrough kept us out of trouble. So it's tough to see a guy that's a fan favorite like Yarbrough get benched, but at the same time, the Ilic experiment right now is going okay. And if we did decide to keep him here after June, I think that would be probably a pretty relatively safe play.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple people can point to maybe he does tend to get rooted. He doesn't. There's not the lunging back the other side of the goal if he gets crossed up. Tends to really trust his vision. Going across the goal. If he doesn't think it's going to hit the post, he will let it go, and that can be a little terrifying from a viewer standpoint.
Especially when you're getting peppered week in and week out. But I will say his distribution looks very good. Yes. Probably a step up from where Yarbrough's distribution is with his feet. And so I think that's an interesting sign. If we were to re-sign Ilic, I think that would at least provide a little bit of clarity of direction, which is something this team right now is lacking a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess one sign, hopefully, that shows direction going forward. Darren Yapi returns from Argentina, where he was with the under-20 men's national team in the under-20 World Cup. Did not get a goal, but definitely got some good minutes, had some nice attacking play, definitely had some moments, I would say, in terms of development, where he's at with his age, how much he's played with top flight talent, definitely a good experience for him. And he comes back and, he has a couple nice little runs. I mean, you're playing down 2 men. It's not like, it's not like you can get too much going with him, but he is back with the team. He, there's some other, you talk about Bombito, who was out tonight, but you have a couple young guys, at least. You have potentially Ilic. Is it time to just hand this over to the young guys?
Yeah, and that's something we talked about on the C38 podcast. Like, what can you do in the next few months that kind of give Rapids fans hope and give us something to cheer for? And really, you see Rapids 2 having great results, and so hopefully we can see more of those guys come up and get some time. Because if we're going to lose anyways, let's root for the Colorado guys. Let's root for some homegrown prospects. Let's root for some guys that feel like we have them as part of our future plans, because I think a rebuild, if we're not rebuilding, then that's even more terrifying.
Right.
When you look at where we sit in relativity to the rest of the league. And obviously, as we all know, the league keeps getting stronger, and the Rapids are a bit stuck in place.
You don't even have to look to the East. I mean, Messi, obviously, but just your direct rivals just added a $7 million player from Mexico who you have already burned you when he was in LA. And
a player that we've had at least one opportunity to sign last year that reportedly we passed on. And you have to imagine, if he's available again this year, we might have had the option to look into that player again. So I think that's a statement of intent. And when you look at Salt Lake, I mean, look what they did when they came here for 2 games in a week. Where they are is not where we are. They're trying to put together a piece that can propel them to greater ends this year, where I think we may need to work the opposite direction, unfortunately, in this window, where we may need to look for asset value and really soul search on whether or not we want to hold on to a guy and plead down contractor, if we can try to extract some value from some guys that we may not want to see leave.
Did you like the 11/formation for this game?
Well, what we saw of 11,
sure.
When I saw it at first,
you have
I was
a strategy
like,
going in, right? So like you see definitely positional versatility, where you've seen Lawless play outside right, but you also have Galvan, who can come and put Keegan back to the right and Galvan on the left and play the back 5. Tons of speed with Cabral and Lewis across the top. You get Bassett in the midfield to really have a 3-person midfield for the first time in what feels like 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything else you would have done differently there, or going forward, is this kind of what we should expect?
Of course, the name everybody wanted to see tonight, right? Rubio wasn't on the sheet, and you have a rain delay in Orlando. Orlando's a tough place to play. It's the sweatiest place I've ever played soccer, to the point where you bring out and change your jersey at halftime. You're so just soaked, and that dehydrates you. Dehydration and injuries are not something you really want to play with a guy like Rubio, who's coming back. So I wasn't surprised that he wasn't in the lineup, but
sure.
At the same time, it's disappointing not to see him in. But with what we had available, I think that we tried to play the strongest, and then you go down a man, and from there it looked like we lacked a plan, and we just kind of scrambling again, which you do when you go down a man and you're down a goal then, and it's you're chasing a game when you really don't have the ability to catch up in it.
Real tough stuff. Fraser, he clearly, once Galvan goes out or gets the card, there's only so much screaming and yelling you can do at the 4th official, and there's only so many tweaks you can make and so many lineup shenanigans you can try and pull off from his point of view here. Where's your confidence level in Fraser right now going forward? 2 wins from 18 is not good for anybody. I'm not predicting any sort of thing there, but coaches have not survived less of a streak. So where are you at with Fraser right now?
I think that we have to give him a little bit longer of a leash because of how this roster was constructed. Sure. We had injuries in some key spots, but even without those injuries, we still have question marks. A guy like Bombito, he got that red card because he's playing on the left. He's a center back. Right. He is our center back depth. So when Lawless is on a yellow tonight, maybe it would be nice to have a young center back that you could bleed in some minutes, but he's on a red card suspension because we were already trying him out on the left, and Rosenberry on the left some, but that left side has become, it's really a vacuum, and nobody has really claimed it. We've seen Galvan, Nicholson, Rosenberry, Bombito, Beta Shower. how many players in that spot, and nobody's really claimed the job and made it their own since Sammy Vines. So that's one spot where we have to find a left back, but we kind of burnt that match on Gersbach, and Gersbach hasn't panned out. Great for the Rapids too, apparently, but that's not what we thought we had.
You didn't expect to be missing Lucas at this point.
Right. And, he didn't have a lot of end product. So, we on C38 pod, we've talked about the fact that we liked Lucas. He was a very likable guy and spunky, but didn't have the end product. Probably not worth the long-term investment, but he last year did prove to be a better deputy in that role than what we've seen this season. So that's tough. And we've got to find someone step up there. I would love to see Markinek get more minutes, and whether or not he's the guy long-term, I don't think the guy long-term may be on our roster right now. So if I had to see somebody, I'd like to see somebody different with a little bit higher upside. So you might be able to see some growth week over week, where now it's like roulette on that left side and very scary.
Right. Yeah. And the injuries, I mean, you kind of started with that in your first answer there, but I was looking through the Rapids in their game notes now provide game by game who played, who was a sub, or who started, who was a sub, who didn't play. You have Rubio and Bassett have only started one game together, played in two. Obviously Price not involved, and I think either one of those, because he went down so early and was injured to start. So you haven't played your best 11 once, right? You have a window coming up. You have some vets. We still don't know if Rubio is going to resign, if he's going to be here next season. You have vets like Lewis, who could maybe Mikey Barrios. You have some guys who could maybe be additional pieces to contenders. Is it fire sale time? Are you worried about something like that?
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because we have to extract value. We've seen the same guys for a while now, and I think we know the ceiling. They aren't taking us to the promised land. The wingers that we have, we've got a number of them, and none of them are the caliber where it's just you could take that guy and say, oh yeah, he's bang a starter on any Western Conference team. We don't have that guy. Johnny Lewis has missed his marks from close range on a number of occasions. We saw that tonight where he had a very good opportunity from maybe 7 yards away, right to the keeper, and not with much steam. So, Lewis and Barrios are two guys where you would like to see something else on the wings, I would imagine, if you're most Rapids fans, just because we've seen the same thing run out. Yapi is in a tough spot because you mentioned Yapi a little bit. He hasn't been able to find goal scoring for him. Well, how could you when you don't have any service? He finds himself on the wings in weird places trying to get on the ball, and that isn't great for a young guy who may not have complete grasp of his whole tool set yet. He's still trying to find his way in the MLS as a very young kid.
Sure. And, it feels like every game, it feels farther and farther. I think once Yapi gets a goal, someone was telling me that it was sort of like, you remember when Jamal Murray started with the Denver Nuggets and he missed his first 18 threes or something like that. Now I'm not going to say he's going to become one of the best strikers in the world, a la Jamal Murray being one of the greatest point guards. But that being said, it does feel like once he sees the ball go in, a lot can change for him.
Yeah, scoring comes in waves, right? It becomes a bit of a habit. Once you find it, you don't know whatever that might be, and it may be a different combination. So seeing him play with some other young guys might be the ticket. Just try something new. Keep kind of rolling through your options until you find something that clicks. And that's kind of lazy to say, but at the same time, you can't really run out the same thing over and over as you continue to slide further and further into last. And right now we're solidly wooden spoon contenders, and that's not the hardware anybody wants to be in the running for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure no one wants to hear this, but you're 1 point up on Galaxy, but they have 3 games in hand. Three games in hand. I mean, look, I'm not splitting the atom here saying it's look in the mirror time, right? But where do you point? Because I think you're getting a lot out of a lot of pieces you brought in terms of Maxu. I think you can't, although he was the deflection for the goal today, whatever, he's been clearly a leader on the field and done pretty well in that pivot spot. Ronan has been overachieving pretty much every single time he's on the field. He's covering for everybody. Who do you point to? Is it Cole Bassett needs to get on the score sheet? Is it Jonathan Lewis meeting that XG finally. If you had to sort of rank your let's fix it in this 11 days before our next MLS game, where do you kind of start?
Yeah, our midfield right now, if you were trying to build something this year and you wanted to kind of fix and improve and try to get results this season, which I'm not sure is the tack that we're going to take in this window. It seems like a lot of ground to make up to make big investments, especially if we have to risk any dry powder we may have to build for 2024. I wouldn't want to sacrifice any of that buying power for next year to try to improve this team, because I don't know that they can get over the hump. But the midfield is where I would look. And yes, Ronan, I mean, we are trying to get every mile we can out of that player, aren't we? And we don't really have a lot of options, so he does have to play. But, I think that he has looked good in comparison. I'm not sure that he is, going to be a stalwart MLS type guy like Price. Price had a little bit more bite. We saw a little bit more in product from Price. He was a little bit more apt to break a line, and Ronan's still settling, and he's working with what he has around him as well. We haven't had great pieces with Bassett being in and out of the lineup with injury. Hopefully we can really get him to settle in, because he can be a guy that everybody is going to root for. Colorado guy, local product. And come hell or high water, I think you have the local crowd behind you there. But we need a pairing, and Leyva hasn't necessarily been it. Priso for me is well off that level to be a regular starter. So I don't think that we have a name in house right now that's simple to slide in, except for maybe Hanya, but we have to put Hanya on a senior contract to do so.
Right. Exactly. And maybe that's, maybe Porg makes that move up the agenda for this summer window. I don't see why not. He's undeniably one of the best players in Next Pro. Like,
and what good is Rapids too if we can't take the guys who are overperforming there and move them up? I mean, I think that's the idea. Bring
up Hanya, pull a parent trap with the Cabral twins, and see what happens.
Yes.
Any other notes from the game? Any other, one thing I thought, and they actually brought it up on the broadcast, which I enjoyed the broadcast team actually tonight. I thought they did a pretty good job, all things considered. There's been some rough games in that department. So, they noticed that they were wide open in the midfield. There was zero compression trying to hold back that Orlando team for about 20, 30 minutes there in the second half. And it was Acosta pushing the line up top, trying to high press and make runs. And just kind of strategically one that left me scratching my head is, why are we pushing like, if you're taking Acosta and pushing him up top, just leave Cabral in, because he's faster, better with the ball, more skilled.
Right. You look at how much ground he can actually cover and close, and Acosta gives them quite a bit of time, because he's not a spring chicken. He also covered so much ground tonight, especially when we went down to 9, and we did rotate through the midfield at that point, which we had to do. But yeah, the compaction and our lines of defense and midfield are about as choppy as you can find for a professional team. So, that's all things you have to fix. And you talk about, what can we fix right now going forward? Throwing other guys into that same mess may not be it. We have to kind of work with the core that we have to be playing better, to let anybody who comes into the team shine or get the most out of them. Because even, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't play well together, if you don't create chances, you wind up scoring, what'd you say, 14 goals or something like that?
14 and 18. June. You got to get over the 1 goal a game mark, man. That's what's killing me. I don't think they've scored more than 2 yet this season. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this was last year too. I think I had a stat late in the season last year. It was Philadelphia had scored 6 or more times than Colorado had scored 3 or more. Is maybe the thesis here is there's Fraser ball and there's Porg ball, right? In terms of building a roster to play one way, a coach that wants to implement something differently. Can those two find some sort of middle ground when I say right the ship, I think Rabbi saw it on Twitter and said I was saying we could save the season. That's past. Saving the season is past. Can you right the ship? Can you score a goal per game? Can you win at home? Can you have an hour of a lead at home? Let's start there. Hour of a lead at home. Can those two meet in the middle right now?
Very valid question. You talk Porg ball and Fraser ball and money ball, and we don't play any kind of ball really at all. No ball. And the plan was not very joined up. There's a lot of question about how much influence Robin had in the last window, because the players that we did bring in, he didn't take to right away. we didn't start Ilic very soon. I mean, we waited till right at the end of his loan term. Gersbach obviously hasn't found favor. Maxu is undeniable. Ronan has been undeniable because of the role he fills. But yeah, you got to hope if Porrick's the guy going forward, if his seat is not boiling hot right now, then hopefully he has a lot of say over who we bring in with an eye towards 2024. If we're going to fire him in the offseason, then he may as well go now, which is the other scary thing. And I always every morning check Twitter with half an eye towards like, did anything happen in that department? And Monday morning will be no exception because this has been a pretty drastic slide. But I guess, really the answer to that question is whether or not the front office sees Robin being there next year.
Yeah, look, I think he's a good coach. I don't think that's really up for debate. Does he maybe want to try and grab one of the assistant gigs or even the top spot with the men's national team if possible? Does he want to throw his name in the hat there? I mean, this can't be that. Obviously, he has ties to Colorado, and his daughter just played in a state championship at Dick's. But does he want to move on? Does he want to commit to this project, right? Because clearly now the word is project. Now it's not retooling, it's not adding, it's project. This is a build from the ground up. You have financial commitments to Maxu, Ronan, Cabral, and that's about it.
Pretty
right?
thin
Like
list, yeah.
pretty much anyone else you can move parts one way or the other, but does he want to be that guy?
Yeah, well, I can't say that it's the easiest thing. You'd think, this is the team that we all love. We want to hype the Rapids up as much as possible, but talk about whether or not the coach would want to be in that position really shows where we are right now. And the roster construction, I think, is big to blame there. I'm sure there'll be conversations about that as we head into the stretch. And I'll be interested to see which way the wind blows with Rapid supporters and which way the blame goes, because it's really hard to say KSE out when we have the Stanley Cup still defending champions at this point, and then and the Nuggets, 48 minutes away from Larry O'Brien. So it's tough to say KSE out. We've seen that their models work elsewhere, but at the same time, the Rapids do feel like the forgotten step kid at times. And with the World Cup being in the United States in 2026, hopefully, and with Messi coming and the profile of the league never been higher, hopefully we get a little bit of that trickle down Messinomics coming our way.
Do you believe in trickle-down Messinomics? There was some lively debate in the comments on Thursday about whether or not that will ever benefit the Rapids.
I have some serious doubts, but at this point, it looks like a done deal, so we can be hopeful, right?
Sure.
Like Devin said, life's too. Devin Whiteick, good friend to you guys, was just on C38 Pod this week. Talked about life's too short to be cynical, and everybody, Messi's such a lovable player. Obviously, the best player in the world. What's not to like about the fact he's in our league? How much that affects us directly? Boy, oh boy, I sure don't see a direct line to say, oh, this is great for us, but. Hopefully, maybe it makes it that much easier for us to sign a high-level player ourselves at some point in time.
And look, it's, I think obviously if you're going to point to anything being good for the Rapids, one, TV money. People want to watch Messi play soccer. The Rapids play in a league where he plays, therefore TV money at some point might make its way over there. Outside of that, it's just how many players are going to come over because Messi's there. That doesn't mean they're coming to Colorado, but sure. If all those teams get better with star names, does that mean I don't know. I try and think of random players from Europe who are not doing so well there that could maybe come be a star here. Are you going to try and get could you get a Jesse Lingard type or something like that, right? Where
I would sure hope we could. I mean, that isn't even that far out of the realm of possibility.
See?
That's not a crazy high one. No. But I worry that we're not one wonder player away right now.
No. And I don't want to paint that picture. I'm not trying to paint that picture.
And with trickle down Messinomics, theoretically, we're not the only team that would see money from that, right? So we wouldn't be getting relatively further ahead. We'd stay in the same relative place with just a bigger pot, which we could certainly, it sounds, use some money for facility upgrades and stadium upgrades. But on the roster, we have to work within the budget that we have. And I don't think our budget's going to be relatively higher than our close competition in the near future. So we have to work with what we have to buy a little bit better and hopefully start to develop more talent. We had a kind of a golden crop of kids that came through with Trusty Vines, Bassett, the European exhibition there. We got Bassett back, but we haven't seen that same type of talent coming through. So hopefully that's something we see over the next couple of years, get back to playing the kids a bit.
And I think, maybe that is some R2 senior contracts get moved around and you kind of just shuffle the decks there, get Hanya as much minutes as you can. Guys like that. Remy maybe even comes up and plays some more on some call-ups. I think he still has 3 more. You got Vargas. Lots of guys there. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. They're in an interesting spot as always.
As always. But hey, Father's Day is coming up, and I was wondering if you knew where I could get a good Father's Day gift, Mitchell.
Thank you. That was my next transition. I'm wearing a DNVR t-shirt here. I had some people flying in to meet me here. We went to game 2 of the finals. It was really fun.
Beautiful.
And they were in the airport and they said it took about 5 minutes to spot some DNVR t-shirts. We are taking over the sports merchandise landscape. And right now, DNVR locker, buy one, get one, half off through Father's Day. You get the hookup from me to you. T-shirts sent with love, packed with love, designed with love, representing teams you mostly love.
And I have it on good authority. If you order by Monday, you can
Monday, baby,
by Father's Day.
God, you are a natural, man. This is great. We need more Jared on this show.
I did my homework here.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Monday, we will ship it to you. Might be something big happening on Monday. Maybe knocking on every surface near me here at the computer. Monday night could be fun for look at that. Thank you, Alyssa. Hats. We have the dad hat, we have the snapback, we have the golf hat, the white golf hat, and tons of Nuggets gear. Tons and tons and tons, and hopefully some more on the way. All right, it is that time. How we wrap up every lounge, drawing room, winner's lounge, loser's lounge. We give some flowers from the fellas. This is a tough one, obviously. When you only have 9 men and get shut out on the road. But Jared, I'm going to let you go first and hand out some flowers here.
Well, what better occasion for flowers than a funeral? We can put it on the casket as we lower this season into the ground here in a few weeks. This one certainly, the plaudits are few and far between. But you mentioned Ilic earlier. I think he gave another good account of himself.
Oh yeah, I mean Ilic is the flowers for this game. You saw that late, I believe it was a Pereira shot from outside the box, which my wife correctly noted earlier, and I think it's probably been brought up on the internet plenty of times, but does he not look just like one of the kids from the Righteous Gemstones, Pereira? It's crazy. He looks just like him.
There, isn't there?
But Ilic was great. Diving save, kick saves, like you said, distribution out of the back. You got to feel a little more confident with him back there than Yarby, who can take some risks distribution wise. Do you just every opportunity you can through June you play him, right? Until it's time to make the contract decision.
Yeah, and that's coming up. That's coming up very soon. So we need every bit of information we have.
2 games, I think, until you have to make it.
Yep. End of June, he's gone. So, the clock strikes midnight, and our backup goalie turns into a pumpkin. So we've got to make a decision really quickly.
Turns into Abe Rodriguez, maybe.
It might be, yeah. And good player there too. Beaudry, good talent. We've got some guys in the stable, but I think there's questions around Rodriguez and Beaudry as to whether or not they'd be ready to be an MLS stand-in at this point.
Just size-wise, they're both. I was watching Beaudry. He was working off to the side of practice a couple weeks ago. And tons of skill, clearly a ton of skill. He's not very big. He needs like another 2 to 4 inches, maybe some reach. Not that there hasn't been small keepers before. It's not unheard of. But when you see a guy like Ilic standing there, even Yarby too, they're just so clearly large, physical.
We've got Russell Wilson in town, right? Didn't he do the hand stretching? Didn't he try to lengthen himself before the draft? Can we get him on the case?
Oh man. Oh, we're down bad. We're hoping for physical transformation on the backup keeper spot. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Who I actually am going to give some flowers to, and I thought pretty good showing, was Danny Wilson tonight.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Maxu's right there too if he doesn't deflect in that first goal. But Wilson, I think, I was kind of surprised when they moved him outside of that pivot spot earlier in the season. Obviously now we're just accustomed to it, but to really kind of accept a major change in role without a major change in roster and kind of be the secondary distributor from the back line and just kind of really buy in. I thought he was really solid tonight. When you're scraping the bottom of the barrel for Flowers, that's kind of the performance you have to acknowledge, I guess.
Yeah, and Wilson, I mean, he's been a soldier for us as much as anybody, but maybe Rosenberry. So, shout out when he's carried a lot of minutes this year, that's for sure. And not sure that was plan A, but it's where we're at.
Yeah, man. Any of those subs tonight for you worthy of a Flower giving? Anybody off that end?
I mean, it's always nice to see Beta come in and give you professional minutes, which he's always good for. In fact, he probably is due for another start now at left back at some point soon.
Running out of defender.
Yeah, why not? Just keep cycling through until we find the rotation that sticks. But aside from that, I not really anything sticks out to me from the subs that were brought much in. Now again, come in tough situations. So
Mikey had about 10 minutes there at the end. Got a couple threatening positions, touches, nothing.
Yeah, he has to beat two in that situation though, because there's you're running out of guys. They have a lot more markers than you have targets in that scenario, and Barrios is physically limited, as we know, and if he beats one, that's usually his cue to put something in the box. And if you ask him to beat two, it's a big ask.
How do you feel about this Orlando team? Kind of feels like there's some parallels here between Colorado and them. They've struggled at home a lot to start this year.
I think that they have a few more stable pieces, and so might be in a slightly better situation. But if anywhere in the country is going to benefit from Messinomics as much as anywhere close to Miami, it'll probably be Orlando. You'll probably have a lot of folks that are coming to America to watch Messi play in Miami. And if you're going to be coming to Miami to watch Messi play, where else are you going to go? You're going to hit up Disney World, and while you're there, you may as well get yourself a purple jersey to go with your pink one.
Man, that jersey matchup, I'm going to give flowers to that jersey matchup tonight.
It was visually appealing, wasn't it?
Purple with the gold, and then the New Day kits look great. They just do.
Yeah.
Regrettably, that is a highlight so far of this year.
Might be the season highlight. The release party for that was about the emotional high of the season, I think.
That was a pretty good time, though. Rapid band, runway, drinks, lots of drinks. There's been lots of drinks this season.
A 500 record, hope in the air.
Oh,
New
man.
signings that we hadn't seen yet, so we didn't know what we had. We could expect they'd all be all-stars.
Those were the days.
Amen.
Those were the days. So what do you guys got coming up over on the C38 pod there, Jay?
So we had Devin on this week. We're going to try to have some more guests as this, it's tough when you don't have a lot of great things to talk about. It gets a little dry over there, but Juan and myself will be there bringing you the storylines as the season progresses, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. And then personally, I'm expecting my first baby is on the way, and I haven't been yelled at yet, so it's not here quite yet, but it could be any time. And that's going to significantly reduce my ability to get to the park. But thanks to Apple MLS pairing up, I'll be able to watch all the games from the comfort of wherever I may be, whether it's a hospital or if it's our living room or otherwise.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
From the whole panel over here at DNVR Rapids, very happy for you. If you had to throw out one bold prediction for this window, and your bold prediction could be there is nothing bold to predict, that's fine too. If you had one thing you think maybe we see, call it drastic, maybe that's too big of a word, but something big happening, what would you predict?
I have a feeling that some people will be regretting jersey purchases in this window, because I think some of our favorites will be, the guys that we rate the highest are the guys that have value elsewhere in the market. And we're probably going to be due for some departures. So I'd say the big surprise will be one day we will again check those Twitter feeds. And I think that we will see that a big name that we all know and love and might be one of the pivotal parts of the 2021 team are probably set to depart.
Tough, man. Tough. Do you think, okay, here's a question for you. 2024, late February, early March, MLS season fast approaching. Is Smith still the GM and Fraser still the coach?
Well, Smith's the president, right? I don't know if he's
President.
actually the
Sure.
GM now.
Sure. Okay, you're
and
right.
That's part of the problem.
I
Is it him or Fran Taylor who sets the footballing direction of the team? That's a valid question. We don't hear a lot from the front office. And I know that Porter came and talked with you guys. It was a great interview, but we didn't get a full behind the scenes picture, which is tough. It's tough.
He is as guarded as it gets,
and for good reason, because you had some bad results last year and some question marks coming into this year that have turned into bad results. So, I can see why they're guarded, but at some point there's going to have to be someone pay the piper. There's got to be a reckoning. Yeah. You can't continue to slide and not see anybody face the music. I don't know who that'll be. And, very interesting, far be it for me. I have no insider access or information or anything like that. I would personally, though, I would like to see a strong personality from outside the current organization be the footballing direction of this team come 2024. Yes. So whether or not that requires anyone to go out, I don't really know. It could just be that we appoint a GM, but somebody who is their team building and roster building is their main focus, where I think we might be stretched a little thin if Porig is still the main direction of our footballing endeavors right now.
It's interesting. I think, you have to say Maxi's a hit, right? Well, you don't have to, I guess. You could say otherwise.
I think that's pretty unanimous.
Ronan hit, right? Cabral, I kind of get trying, but probably not a hit.
Probably a miss so far.
Probably a miss so far. Then you look at how his team built out R2, and maybe there's some prospects there that could help. I guess it's always tough to say, well, yeah, look, he did, like, this is a GM or team president or whatever his position was when these decisions were made. And it's like, oh, well, he did find this guy and he made this move, and these guys are definitely starters and they locked him down for this time. Oh, the team also happens to be well on pace to finish at the bottom of this. So,
yeah,
I mean, is there a move Port could make? I mean, are we, in your eyes, is he just lost to the fan base in terms of how this roster has performed so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, the performance has been bad. I think that you do have the excuse of injuries, but I think the lack of communication and the lack of a clear message, also the lack of progress. We aren't seeing the team improve week over week. It's one thing to have a bad start and a bad run of results, but now it looks like we have some serious systematic problems, and those problems are not just the fact that the roster isn't strong enough. I think there's reason to start to ask questions about where we are with preparation. If we, the message had to be very clear to Galvan. You are trying to get yourself back into the team. We rate him like he's a star, but he's never produced on a consistent basis. He's got a beautiful left foot and really a ton of talent, but at the same time, we got to get him to get a run of results together, and to put himself in this situation now where he's suspended for another 2 matches is it's self-sabotage of the highest order, and you really can't afford it. And that part does have to be chalked up, at least to some degree, to the coaching staff.
I mean, he has some like Lucas level like meltdown in him. He
gets hot, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't know if I was just like only remembering the good times or whatever, and it's like,
well, it's easy because we didn't see a ton of them.
Right? There wasn't a lot of minutes.
Very promising, but there wasn't a lot of we didn't have months of constant performance, so we had a good. It was very easy to look at him and go, man, look at what he's produced in the limited minutes he's had. What if he plays all the time? Then you're injured. Now we can't get you in the lineup because you're sabotage yourself out of those opportunities, and you have to wonder at some point, when does the talent when do you have to cut talent for results? And we are in a results based business. We talk about there have been some hits, and we like the guys that we have, and in a number of circumstances, I think everybody could admit we're a little bit thin, but you're going to lose the fan base. You talked about losing the fan base. I think you lose the fan base if you don't show any clear direction and you don't communicate. So the lack of communication has been tough, but we need to see clear direction. So is there a single move they can do to win everyone back over? I really highly doubt it, but there are some moves that would be kind of clear steps in the right direction that would give people, it would extend the rope, extend the leash.
If it's, Mikey, Rubio, maybe a Wilson, maybe a Yarby even, right? And like a re-up of Ilic. Is that a direction you're interested in? I mean, is that a direction you can get behind as a supporter?
Yeah, I mean, if you see a positive sale from any of those assets, yeah, if we see a deal that looks pretty good or we get good value, that's terrific, and that would start to show, okay, well, the direction is we do have to tear down to rebuild. We're going to arm ourselves with as much money as we can put in the war chest, whatever limited resources that may be, but we're going to go all in on 2024. If we don't see that kind of tear down and we continue to see bad results, then I don't see how anyone can be like fully on board. It's like, well, we haven't seen anything but this not work, and you haven't shown us anything different. So yeah, I think at that point you risk burning whatever faith there is left.
Man, that's a bummer, dude.
It is. But hey, Leagues Cup is coming up. We've got another chance at silverware.
Leagues Cup, baby. I'm actually pretty excited for Leagues Cup.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be a weird stretch of shows here. We all plan vacations for that stretch.
Okay.
Obviously in United and Dortmund in Vegas the day before their first game, I think, against they play in Toluca. Either way, it's going to be interesting. Look, it's something you can throw these young guys at, right? Like, why not have Galvan Harris play at least 180 minutes in that tournament if you can, right? Why not have, you probably want Cabral playing a lot, but why not have Bombito play 180? You only get those 2 games to guaranteed, right? So
yeah, and you didn't have that kind of flexibility. I would say the Hailstorm game ended up being an absolute must-win. We could not, as an organization, face the idea of losing that match. And then Salt Lake became also kind of a must-win because we had just lost at home MLS. Now we're playing them again twice in a week, and so you had to run out a very strong lineup in that match. So we didn't have the flexibility U.S. Open Cup to really cycle. I don't think we have anything to lose with Leagues Cup. So absolutely, let's see some youth. And let's hope that we start to see some glimmers of hope like we have in Bombito, who in the minutes that he's had has looked fantastic. So
do you want a couple minutes to cook on Bombito? We've been gushing about Bombito on this podcast. I mean,
no, you guys have done a great job. I think everybody's seeing the same thing. And I want to say caution that he is young and very raw. And so we have to nurture this talent, and playing him out of position is not the best way to do that. So as we go deeper in the season, I'd like to see him play at center back. And if results continue to slide, then I don't see a lot of value in playing the same back three with Maxu, Abubakar, and Wilson like we tend to do match in, match out.
No. I think it's time to put him one pass away from Maxu at all times, right?
So please.
So Maxu can yell at him and point him in the right direction and talk to him and build him up. Because those runs up the right side, runs up the left side, that's nice, I guess. But how often do you need your 6'3" athletic defender to do that, right?
And hopefully we have somebody else on the farm somewhere that can make those runs a little bit more effectively. That's paid to be an attacker and things like that. But the wing backs, it's a very difficult it's a difficult system to run, especially when you don't necessarily staff for it. And Gersbach was never set up to be a left wing back.
No,
Galvan a bit undersized. Beta all right in that spot, but
couple steps behind.
It's sketchy. Rosenberry's a Swiss Army knife. He'll play anywhere, but the left side is tough because Rosenberry's probably the best right back and left back. We don't have 2 of them, so you run into a little bit of trouble there.
Pick one position you get to make a surefire positive addition to.
We need a midfielder, so I would take a CM. It's somebody that is in the same kind of mold as Leva, really. But we know Leva is a short timer. This is an internship for the Sounders. So
are you looking MLS? Are you looking interleague? Are you looking?
I think we've seen good results when we do. I think also we have a reputation in MLS right now where I don't think you have a lot of guys who are strong performers that would be jumping up and down to get that move. But you might find somebody who is 3rd or 4th or 5th choice somewhere else that needs to get minutes and fits what we need for a short-term fix. And we really just need bodies in that room for the remainder of this season. Long-term though, too, I would love to see a partner for Ronan, because if we want to get the best out of what he can provide, we do have to pair him up with players with talent and destruction ability, because again, he is a sprightly fella. Maybe not the strongest.
It feels like you can build something with Bassett and Ronan. Right? As long as you find that deep line 6 who can really hold it down, right? And not force Ronan to play fully box to box, full possession dictation, being the absolute the only conduit between the thirds.
And the 6 also will protect Abubakar and Wilson, who we don't necessarily at this point want to see in one-on-one situations all that often.
And look, Lawless, he is a true fighter, but holding up as well as you can as a right back. I mean, is Mark Hanick that far off the depth chart that you can't start some of these outside backs over that?
If he is, let him prove it,
Sure.
Throw him out there and put him in the deep water and see if he swims, I guess. Because what do you have to lose? And it is tough. And Abubakar's red card tonight, I do chalk up to an organizational problem because we didn't have cover. We should have gotten him off after the yellow, the first yellow. So
I mean, Edwards on the bench, but I mean, I don't know if he has MLS minutes yet at all.
Well, we clearly showed that we thought we would have him on loan in USL.
Right.
Had to pull him up last second. Yep. So not a lot of confidence from Robin there either.
No. Do you have a target for this summer window coming up in your mind, whether that's out of league, in league, a guy that he's like, man, this can help what the Rapids are doing right now?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of guys in the world that could help this team, and really we have to fix the structure. So as far as naming one guy that's going to come in and be a magic bullet, what I'm looking forward to, not only in this window, but also the rest of this season and the off season ahead, is to get a better idea of the direction that we want to go. Because as many times as the FO can say, there's a clear playing style. It's so clear, but it's like, if the style isn't, we are never going to score goals again, then whatever it is isn't clear. So we've got to reshape that and rework that and get the most out of the players. We need to build around the players we have, because we aren't doing anyone any favors right now. Everybody's scrambling. Everybody looks like they are just trying to get out of each match. Nobody looks confident, like we want to go and show what we have. It's like, okay, how do we survive these next 90 minutes?
Right.
How do we get anything on target? But we have guys that you can build around. You named Ronan and Bassett. I think those are players that we really should be looking to build around. If we can convince Bassett he can be an essential part of this team, then he can absolutely be a building block. But we have to figure out who those building blocks are and then build around that. The last thing I would want to do is take some international star and shoehorn him into this team right now and go, we have no idea why it didn't work.
Well, yeah, and it's not going to be like you say international star, but that's going to be like a Nemanja Matic or something. It would never be like
an international star.
Yeah, he's definitely a star. Hey, Serbians love Colorado, baby.
There you go.
But
building the profile.
Hey, maybe that's what you just build.
We got Ilic, but we could probably run one of the Jokic brothers next to Maxu.
It's not full America. It's not American Leeds. It is it's Serbian Rapids. I think that might be one strategy. All right. Hey, Jared, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Plug away. Where can we find you? Where can we mess with you? How can we get more Jared content?
Yeah, right down here at Jared_Geisler on Twitter. The Centennial 38 podcast, where you can hear me and Juan breaking things down. And you can also find us at the tailgate, as always, undefeated tailgates at DSGP.
Can't lose at the tailgate. Cannot lose at the tailgate. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, 5-star reviews only. If you're not going to leave a 5-star review, why would you even leave a review? Get your diehard membership to the DNVR.com. That gets you discounts at the bar. That gets you discounts on merch. It gets you free merch. Gets you tickets. We had our Rockies takeover today, so a party bus from the bar to Coors Field. Tickets all together with a bunch of fans. Tickets back to the bar. Good hangs, stuff like that coming all summer. We have our summer league trip coming up that you can get a package of. You can all sorts of stuff. We're going to get another. We're trying to maybe put together a Leagues Cup little thing, maybe. So more to come there. Definitely like and subscribe on YouTube. Please like that on the way out. And more important than all of that, like we end every single one of these damn things, baby. Up the pits.
Up those pits.